Hey everyone, it's Nicholas Verderosa, author of the fantasy novel Ellis, Lights of Lumnaria. And I'm sure since you clicked on this video, you want to publish your own amazing idea for a novel as well. And that's why I'm starting this series, from notebook to novel. And I don't know how many parts it will be, but I do know we'll go over my personal process, the steps I take to bring scrap papers and iPhone notes all the way to a finished product. A novel that I'm pretty happy with if you want to check it out, by the way. But when there's advice I can offer on certain writing aspects, maybe character development tips, dialogue help, if there's insight I could also give on that, I'd be happy to make a video on it. Feel free to request parts of the writing process in the comments and I'll do my best to compile a video about it. But in terms of how I start writing my projects, I start with chapter names and profound scenes. This can be equated to other authors' brainstorm time, writing down any idea that comes to mind, but I personally like to give a little bit of structure to this phase, and any other ideas that spring forth I just write in a section in a Word document, assorted notes. But I like focusing on coming up with chapter names and profound scenes first because it forces me to put together a draft timeline. It helps avoid the world-building disease where people spend years coming up with the whole fantasy world and then they come to realizing that they've written nothing for their book, but at least they know how the Elven Kingdom manages their sewer system. So chapters inherently give a sense of time, so I'll put down about 20 or so numbers in a list in a Word document, and any idea for a chapter name I'll write down. It doesn't have to be in order, and it doesn't have to be every chapter completely named, because you're not going to come up with that all at once. But just start thinking about how I want my characters to progress through the story, any profound scenes you want, and then you'll say, how do I come up with chapter names without knowing what's going to happen? I thought this is the first step, and that's why I want you to also write down profound scenes. Maybe you have the idea of a final battle in a throne room, or an opening scene where your main character is traveling to a new strange world. Now you have a direction as to what you can name the chapters. These scenes will be, just say in the throne room, maybe you have the idea for making the chapter name No King for the Crown. Why isn't there a king for the crown? I don't know, and that's up for you to decide. So I always find that I end up writing down the later chapter ideas and the early chapter ideas first, and that's likely not exclusive to me because the action is usually most prevalent in the start and at the end of a book. Think of it this way: you're giving a loved one 3 gifts on Christmas. One is a bag of candy, maybe one's a bracelet, and one of them is a new car. Which one would you save for last? We all know the answer to that. So I don't expect you to come up with every single chapter name, but it's a matter of giving yourself anchor points. Maybe you came up with the idea for the first and the last chapter, and now you're putting together puzzle pieces. You don't exactly know how many there will be, but you could build off of that. Every time I come up with a chapter name, I create a main scene, so to say. I want to be featured in it, or vice versa. And then all of a sudden I have anchor points I could build off of. I might have chapter 1, chapter 21 complete. But if I have those 2 ones settled and I've got a scene for them, then I can begin to think, okay, how do I take my character from her traveling to a strange world to dethroning the corrupt king in the end? What would need to happen to get her there? And suddenly your random ideas that you are coming up with for the story can be put in the middle of your chapter/scene list, and you could build from there. The important thing is that you start to build the framework of your novel, because I could spend forever and a half coming up with the lore to my fantasy world, but when you have solid chapter names and main scenes written down underneath them, then that gives yourself a timeline and it will keep your mindset on track. You'll be thinking about how to get your characters from point A to point B instead of writing down all of these sporadic ideas and then having to sift through a mess. You'll at least have something to keep you on track. So that's all I got for you today, and I hope that this gives you a different angle to starting your novel. If it helps, I'd love to know in the comments, and maybe I'll work on a video about character names next. But that's all for me. Good luck and God bless, and I'll see you next time.